Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the EJMast Plus podcast. I'm your host, Elson Mast, and today I have three guests with me, and they're going to introduce themselves. Go ahead.
Yes, I am Steve Miller, here from Brown County, Ohio, Russellville area, and this is where I've been for a few years now.
My name is Stanley Miller, and if you guys haven't noticed, this is my twin brother Steve, and we are 27, and we live here in the local area here. So,
I'm Wayne Miller. I work over here at Cricket Valley Structures, local company, storage sheds. These are also my two brothers. I'm the youngest one. Some people say there was two sisters, twins, and then my mom was pregnant with three people, or triplets, and then it was just me. But yeah, we'll touch on that later.
They say you're a pretty good lineman on football.
Well, yeah, I mean, what can I say?
Kind of what we're going to talk about today is their whole family had went over to Kenya to serve there for a while, so that's going to be our main topic, and then we'll touch on a few of their jobs. Maybe just real quick, you do what, Steve?
I haul containers. Basically, if you think of like the Rumpke dumpsters or the Rumpke company, similar to that, but I'm just working for a private company doing that roll-off. They call it roll-off dumpsters, roll-off containers, whatever.
Kind of for construction sites and stuff?
Yeah, kind of out to construction sites, people tearing down houses, burned out buildings, and then it's just like we've delivered to Walmart in West Union. Just, people that need their trash taken out.
Very large dumpsters.
Yeah, very large dumpsters. We do, the smallest we do is 20 yard, and then we do 30 yard and 40 yard, and different prices for each size, but all the dumpsters are the same length. They're 20 feet long. The size would be in your sidewall height. So,
good deal. And then what about you, Stan?
So as Wayne already mentioned, he works for Cricket Valley there, and that's our family-owned shed business. So what I do is, Steve and I built sheds for a total of 5 years. 2.5 years before Kenya, 2.5 years after. So it worked out that we took over the rent-to-own side of things. And so that's what I've done now for the last 4 or 5 years since 2020, is do rent-to-own where we finance the sheds. If someone doesn't have the means to come up with the whole amount.
$20-$30 or...
Yeah. That's where...
If you're selling $20-$30 sheds, I'll take one real quick.
But yeah, that's where we come in with the financing, and it's a nice option for someone who, yeah.
And then you're also pretty involved with your other company, the Miller's Coffee, right?
Yeah. So that was after we came back from Kenya. We learned to like coffee really well in Kenya because, as you guys know, we were there from 2016 to 2019, and we actually do have a bag of Kenyan AA right here. That's one of our best sellers there. Very, very good coffee. But we started. My dad and I started Miller's Coffee Company because we learned to like coffee, and we were like, well, why not share it with the people here at home? And so that's where the desire was born for the coffee company. So
good deal. So that's kind of just the introduction to these guys, and now we'll probably go into Kenya's section, and then after that we might come back and go more in depth about maybe coffee company and stuff, and I'll plug some websites, throw up some websites and stuff like that. So without further ado, I guess, how long were you there? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but...
So we were there from 2016 to 2019. It was a good experience. I will say it was also a difficult experience with how young we were, right? But that was the time frame we were in Kenya.
So it's been, 3 years or so?
3 years, yes.
3 years, I think it was like March. You said March 2016 to 2019. We would have been 18 years old when we left and 21 years old when we came back.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is kind of a difficult stage of life, to go serve. I always say that I would encourage younger families to go in the mission field, and that way, they can be back, or, relatively soon before their kids get, older.
Because you would have been in a youth group already and everything.
We would have been in the youth group, and the thing is, over in Kenya, the people there, it's a different culture, so you don't really have your youth group. There's people that live with you in the compound, but it's a very difficult life because you don't have just a whole lot of friends. And so it's just very easy to, it can be difficult. But it's also, it can be a blessing. But I think it's good, if young families can come back, so their kids can still be part of a youth group in a church. That's just my opinion. But
so, kind of where was you mentioned there was a compound, where was that kind of located?
So the compound would have been located in Kisumu, Kenya, and if I have my statistics right, the missionaries would have started there in the 1950s.
Yeah, it was really early that they had started the original compound there. Right beside Lake Victoria. That would be the largest freshwater lake in the world, I think. Maybe that's Africa.
Second largest, something like that.
Something like that, second largest. But yeah, it was a good time. I was there from, maybe you weren't done yet, but maybe.
Go ahead.
I was there between the ages of 14 to 18. End of 14, that's why it's three age brackets. But yeah, it's kind of what you said, kind of hinging on what you said. It was a good time. It taught us a lot of stuff. But, it opens your eyes to a lot of things that you never would have seen between home, here you get between home, work, church, and you just don't see everything, which it's not for everybody either. You can be a missionary right here, you can be in your local community, you can be a witness to people. Absolutely. So, but yeah, like I said, between 14 and 18, didn't have any pie, but we still found food. So we had food somewhere. We had a good time. I will say the local food is amazing. You guys should try it.
No pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving.
No pumpkin pie. I just replaced it with some ugali and some meat and stuff, which is like a cornmeal. But
yeah.
And you, Wayne, I believe you had a YouTube channel that you messed around with.
I did. That's kind of under wraps. But
I forgot about that.
The cringe era.
Blow that door open real quick. I might plug it and put it in the description.
I think it's under Kenya Memories now, but it was very cringe. But I had fun. I like making videos. Took care of 90 chickens. That was a lot of eggs in a day, and if some of them would spoil, they would accidentally kind of slip out of my hand over the fence. Accidentally happen to maybe hit somebody.
Massive air quotes for the accident.
Right, but anyway, no, it was a fun time. Lots of Amish bombs and lots of experiments. But.
It was a fun time. It was definitely a challenge because the compound was made up of 7 or 8. Houses, and to start with, the mission had rented those buildings, and we called it a compound because over in Kenya, security is a big thing. So you have a gate and a fence around your whole property. That's how people do it over there. And everything is locked at night. They have watchdogs. They have a lot of the other fancier places have guards, and that's what we had for our compound, was guards and a dog. And so we had a fence all around the compound. You wouldn't believe how long I spent putting up razor wire. I put up razor wire. I put
for days.
I put that stuff up for days, and we had a whole Wi-Fi network there that we shared. So we had security cameras, and thieves were a pretty real thing, but it didn't happen very often.
Probably like 4 times in the time we were there that there was attempted / successful.
Attempted thefts, things like that. Actually, our family, we had a...
Fourth night.
The 4th night we were there, we had a robbery, and we got most of our electronics stolen.
Yep.
And you can see now the Lord has blessed us, and we've replaced them.
I think I found this one at Goodwill.
Apple.com Goodwill.
Laying beside the road.
See, back in 2016, I had an old steel iPod, And I didn't really shed tears over losing that thing because it gave me a good excuse to upgrade, right? You know?
Right.
So, and with that said, I'll kind of wrap up with what I'm saying here. But it was a good time. Like I said, 7 or 8 houses in that compound, and the houses were right next to each other. You had one here on the east side, and then they went west. Well, I'm going the opposite direction now, but went west. And so we were kind of all in one, like a horseshoe almost, the houses. Mm-hmm. So I had to spray those for bugs every 2 weeks. That kept me busy. And then I was also, my main job was being a somewhat of a diesel mechanic, which I didn't get much in depth in that. I just did a lot of the suspension work, brake pads, that type of thing, coil springs, shocks, and we had a mechanic that we outsourced as well, and I worked with him, and I really enjoyed it. But that's kind of what we did there, and that kind of kept me busy, and I enjoyed that.
You should tell them why you had to change coils and brake springs every 2,000-3,000.
I had to change brake pads about every 3,000 miles, and the reason was, kilometers. The reason was because over there they don't have stoplights; they've got roundabouts and speed bumps. So you've got speed bumps every 20 yards, 30 yards, and that's the only way they enforce the speed. And so with that and potholes, the back country didn't have paved roads. It was just dirt roads, and some of them were pretty bad. And so with that, that's why the shocks went out, the brake pads went out.
Speed bumps,
bumps, yeah.
You're talking not just your average speed bumps. They would design them in like a square to where you'd hit it going up, and then just as you'd be falling off the other end, your back end would go up. So you'd be like they'd slow you.
Like a bucking bronco.
They would be seesawing.
And not just like one every mile. There's like one every 50 to 80 feet in the town. So you just constantly be wearing out your shocks, your coils, your brakes.
Yeah, I think each of us got some form of spinal meningitis.
Do y'all have?
I got elephanitis.
Do y'all have pics of the compound there and a few of the roads and stuff? If y'all could send those to me, I'll throw them up on the video version of the podcast, which you can find on Spotify. So I would encourage you to go check out the video version, and then you'll see those pics there right now. And you already kind of mentioned how the roads were pretty rough. Kind of what was the culture like over there?
The culture was very different from what we have here. Obviously, so my sister and her husband, they've got a YouTube channel as well. I don't know. Maybe throw their link on there too. But they've got a YouTube channel, and
smaller creator.
And she
no, they're actually got a nice job.
She married a Kenyan, and so seeing their relationship, they've put in a lot of work to make it go, and it's that way with any relationship. It's going to take work, but I've seen and I really respect them for the relationship they have. They've got something really good going. But I do believe I would say respectfully that I think interracial relationships would be more difficult maybe
they are
than the regular relationship. And I don't say that with meaning anything. I'm just saying it for what it is. And so that's kind of, like I said, the culture is very different. There's so many different things. Dynamics in the culture, I don't really know where to start.
Maybe I'll break it down a little bit more. When you go into town, what's that like? So when you go down into town here in America, you got nice gas stations everywhere, and you got huge shopping like Walmart or whatever, and all of that. Obviously, you got air conditioning and cell service and Wi-Fi everywhere. Right. How does that over in Kenya? Is there a poor country, aren't they?
It's a third world country.
They're a third world country. Now Kisumu is the third largest city in Kenya specifically. It would be Nairobi the biggest, Mombasa the second, and I believe Kisumu is the third. I might have second and third mixed up, but we're close enough. But anyway, they don't have a lot of AC around. But town was my favorite place. I would go mingle with the people, and I would learn the language. I learned about 40% of the Luo local language, and that was really good. I love going to the market, bargaining, just living with them. You know, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, Kasumu was good.
So you mentioned bargaining. So it's not like you go into Walmart and it says it's $10 and you pay $10. Is there more of a back and forth open there?
So yeah, they have their supermarkets that are like that, but there's maybe one or two in Kasumu. But most of the times you go to their supermarkets just that have the food, everything's on the floor, and like I want this cabbage head. Well, she's gonna tell you 50 cents, but I really only want to pay 30. And so you'll sit there and haggle over 30 cents for 15 minutes, and but it's fun. They enjoy it. I enjoy it. At the end of the day, I tell them hey, don't sell it to me if you're losing money, and they're like, well, hey, it's part of the bargain. So
I think Wayne got pretty good at bargaining. that the Kenyans were surprised because he wasn't getting the Mzungu price, which Mzungu in Swahili means white man, and that's what we were called over there. But Wayne got pretty good at bargaining with their own people there, and Wayne was a fast learner. So
I got a free cookie one time, or mandazi they called it, and that was unheard of for a white man, giving something which I wanted to pay and they didn't want me to then. But
right.
So kind of when they see white men, they would think of, this dude's got extra money, and they would hike the price on y'all.
Exactly. Most definitely. And that's just how Kenya is. But we took language classes for 6 weeks when we first came to Kenya, and Wayne wasn't old enough at that time to be part of the language class. So I think it was Dad, Mom, Sylvia, Steve, and I. We learned the language, and then Wayne learned from us and learned from mingling with the people. It was pretty crazy.
Mostly with the people, though.
He did good. And then quickly back to our sister. So like Steve said, our sister married a Kenyan. And their names are Corey and Sylvia Bachanga. Mm-hmm. And you can find their YouTube is called The Bachanga Family. Mm-hmm. And so you guys, if you guys are interested, you might find that interesting.
That's like 115,000 subscribers, right?
They're about 118 right now.
Yeah. They're headed toward 120, but it's a very good channel. It comes from basically how they met, how they got to know each other, and then, of course, living there in Kisumu, Kenya, outside as an individual family, and then moving on through how they got over here. So, it was...
Yeah.
I watched a few of theirs when they moved over. I found it pretty interesting seeing Corey as he...
Lots of firsts.
Seeing all the firsts of America. It was kind of interesting.
Nobody
and stuff you never think of, like how here in America everything's automated from your paper towel dispenser to your blow dryers to your...
and he found that interesting.
And you walk into the door and the door's open. You don't even give it a second thought anymore.
Right.
And...
He's like, wow, the paper towel dispenser is like a printer. Like, he's printing.
Like a receipt.
Yeah.
He said it's like a receipt.
Yeah.
Shoot, over there, you got to pay, in some malls, you got to pay 30 cents to go to the restroom.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
For toilet paper, yeah.
For toilet paper utilities, but one day I was wondering what would happen, if heaven forbid you just, hey man, there's nowhere to go, dude. But no, I always respected them for that. But I just thought it's interesting. Here they never think about doing that.
There's not really any paid toilets here. And over in Ireland, when our youth group went to Ireland, they actually had kind of just out along the sidewalks, they would have had a paid restrooms where you swiped your credit card to use the restroom. It's just kind of something, different we never think about here. And it's just kind of interesting seeing all the different cultures,
Right, because here, using the restroom, stuff like that, that's a basic human right.
Well, yeah, it's just a human, default. How are you going to pay for a human default?
Right.
It's not like they're going to stop you, but...
So how many people,
He's talking. Go ahead.
How many people understood English over there? Was there...
I would say good 85%.
It was the old people that didn't know.
People didn't know
And
English.
people out in the bush, people out in remote areas. of Kenya, of Africa, that don't know English as much. But you'd be surprised. All your town people would speak fluent English, but they'd have a bit of an accent because their English in schools, they're taught the British accent, right?
They're taught the UK English, which is a little bit different from the American English, obviously. But it was interesting because some of the old people. So Swahili is the national language of Kenya. Some of the old people couldn't even speak Swahili. Some of them. Now those weren't as common, but there were people that couldn't even speak Swahili.
So you all could get along pretty good just when you came over there without knowing the language very well, or like for the most part you could find someone that could understand you. Or...
For the most broken part, English is really hard to stand over there as well. Like some of the first people you meet that speak English, like at first if you're from America, you're like, is he speaking English or is he speaking something else? But if you learn how to get the broken English, then
so especially like you said, you learned maybe about 40%. So after that, you would have probably been able to understand their English that they did have a lot better.
Exactly. And it was fun walking through the market because you'd hear these ladies, they'd be making food and they'd look at them. Oh, I bet he ate a lot of pie and stuff. And I'd turn around and look at them and. In their language, and I was like, no, I didn't. What? We got to be careful. These white men, they know our language.
Which we got to know a lot of people in town eventually, to where if we'd go to town, we had quite a few buddies, come up and they're in their culture, time is money, and so they've got lots of time, so they take more time.
So they should be pretty rich,
but a lot of them wanted to hang out, and that was part of the culture. Was just hanging around, not doing much, and we kind of made friends in town, and so eventually, when we'd go to town, you'd always meet somebody that knew you and wanted to talk, and this and that, but it was interesting.
Yeah,
sure.
I find it kind of interesting, like a lot of other cultures, and I think that's something maybe the Americans could do a little better in, is they seem to prioritize spending time with others a little bit more, and here in America, everything's self-serve and send it as fast as you can and get as much done as you can. And it's made, like, America a really prosperous nation, I think, but it's also almost going, like, too far to where, there's self-checkouts and everything is, like, you don't have very many interactions with people anymore. And
right.
Yeah, it's just someone that gets in the way on the road or whatever,
Well, it's just like it's just like COVID was. The whole point of that was to distance everybody from each other, and I'm not saying that that's what America is doing as a whole, but it seems like people want more distance. They want to keep people separated and apart, and over there, it's totally common to see two men holding hands.
Yeah, no gay stuff about it. Right. It's just
there's nothing like.
If you're good friends, Elson and I, being gay. It's weird here, but they're like that's how they connect.
Being gay is non-existent over there, and I'm sure you have it, but over there you'll go to jail for it, and it's actually a crime in Kenya to be gay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not.
Right. Now, can I cover, though, I don't think, so we've talked all this while about Kenya, but we haven't really covered about the mission we went with and kind of those values, if I may.
Ooh, you can go into that now.
Yeah. So when we went to Kenya, we went with AMA Missions. It stands for Amish Mennonite Aid, I do believe. And we went with them.
Do they have a website?
I do believe if you... key in Amish Mennonite Aid.
I'll see if I can pull it up.
Something
plug it.
Something should come up. But yeah, so we went with them, and kind of the main goal of the mission was church planting. So Dad was a pastor. We went to church every Sunday, and I also got the opportunity to work with Cam and do some humanitarian aid every 2 weeks while I was in Kenya. And so that was a lot of fun, but that was kind of the mission we went with. And I do want to take this opportunity to say that I really enjoyed my time in Kenya, and I do appreciate that we got the opportunity to go to Kenya. Now, I don't think I would have looked at that as an opportunity back then, but looking back, I definitely do think we were privileged to go, and we met a lot of nice people there. We met a lot of good people, and it was just a privilege to serve with each one. And maybe some Kenyan people or some of the missionaries we serve with might listen in. And so, yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to say that I appreciate each one of you, and it was an awesome experience to serve with you guys. So.
You know, and I appreciate what you said there, Stan. You know, it's easy to be maybe more on the negative side of things a lot of the time, but there was also a lot of positive things that we learned in Kenya, and you know, we weren't always the way we maybe should have been, but I think, you know, people grow up and you try to do better.
We were young.
Learn from things, and I think that's what we did. And
Absolutely.
You know, and the thing is like I said, the compound had these houses together. So when you live in a small area like that, that many families, it's almost like living on top of each other.
Yeah.
You can hear the neighbor's baby cry. You can hear everything. It's like living in a glass house.
Yeah.
So that made it also a little bit difficult living close together like that. But in a way, you know, it kept everybody transparent. You know, we weren't supposed to go out after dark, and those were all stipulations that had all came from something that had happened in the past. Past experiences. And honestly, Kenya wasn't really that safe after dark.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you knew what you were doing, you would be fine. But just things like that were important to keep in mind. And yeah, it was a great experience. Definitely teaches a person how to get along with other people. The mission had their own school there, so all the children had their own school inside. And like I said, we had a fence around it, had 3 guards on full-time duty with a dog, and you know, that even gave jobs for the Kenyans. You know, like I said, security is a big thing, so that's a lot of jobs for Kenyans was security. And
they had a just inserting there as far as the guards. They had I just remember they had 4-hour shifts that they walked the entire around the whole compound with a spotlight and shine on each one. Now, all the walls and stuff. But now I'd like to insert as well, the Kenyan people are extremely nice. Probably the nicest, most like kind people
yes,
or culture you'll ever meet.
Absolutely.
I've been to Paris when I was younger. I've been around, and you get a lot of pushback sometimes if you're American.
Oh, yeah.
But in Kenya, as a whole, you know, 90% of the time, they're the nicest people you ever meet. It's just like any other country. You get your few minorities that, you know, steal and kill like anybody else. But
You have that in every
every
yes.
culture.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just over there, they don't have guns, so it gets pretty knifey.
Dicey.
It's pretty dicey.
It gets dicey.
They don't switch. They don't switch.
So they don't have guns, but do they have like gangs over there that manage to find guns, or not really any of that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, probably, but in the cities especially. But they'll occasionally, the rich ones will hire the police, believe it or not, to come and you know, they'll wear a bandana, but that's how they acquire the guns, and they'll literally, if they find a thief, dude, they will Swiss cheese him, dude. So they'll have like 3 new belly buttons. It's bad.
Yeah.
They're nasty.
So those cops can be bought over there, kind of?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Oh boy.
Dude, you can buy a cop, and I'm not even talking about robbing somebody, but if you want to like get out a speeding ticket, shoot, one day Steve had an extra bag of candy, and we gave him a couple extra pieces of candy, and we went on our merry way. Yeah. But it was crazy that a full-grown man takes a couple pieces of candy and was like, "Hey, just keep on going."
Well, the culture is so different. It's just different. But yeah, you know, those kinds of people were very open to the gospel, and the focal point of the mission was to plant churches. That was the point. So they had a great outreach there. They have a great outreach there. The mission is still there. They're still going. And they basically plant churches and then oversee the churches. Every family that's there, that head of the house, would be a pastor at a different church. And some people, or some families, would be head of several churches. And so the missionaries just help them with transport. That's what I did when I wasn't busy doing other stuff. I was doing transport for funerals. I was basically, we kind of offered a hearse service where I would go to the morgue, pick up the deceased person, and then I would deliver them out to the family, get them set up there, and
That's another thing. They don't respect the dead. Tell them how you got them there.
and-
I just had to laugh because of all the stories that we had with.
and so
Coffins
yeah, then we take it, and then of course there would be a wake and then a funeral. And over there, they didn't really have any rodeos, or the people didn't like
Their funerals.
get together that much. Except funerals were where people could come, get a good meal, and
Get drunk at. A lot of
yeah.
people got drunk at funerals. It's bad.
So funerals were kind of their social gatherings, kind of in a way. And
Yeah.
we have a lot of stories, and we don't have time for all those, but we have lots of stories of. Most times, I would carry the deceased person on the top of the van. The van would have a rack on top,
All the vans have
and
racks, yeah.
I would try to drive as carefully as I could to be respectful. But sometimes the family would they would be very emotional sometimes and express themselves very much to where things would get interesting. But
Well, they do the wailing where they, yeah. And it gets just, you get 30 women in there screeching. It's bad. Like, it sounds terrible. Like, you can hear it a long ways off.
So they would have like a kind of a culture where they would wail for the dead, and
they would wail for
Yeah.
the dead.
And then, like, coherent talking and, like, about the dead person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we encountered a few witch doctors over there, and you could feel the opposite forces. If I know there's people who would say they're not religious and they're atheist, but I've been in a situation to where I could feel both forces very clearly going at each other. So it is real. I've heard some people say that the spirit world is the real world. We're not in the real world per se, because once we die, we go to heaven, and that will be our reality then. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
okay, let me see here. And then kind of you said the main vision, I guess, of the mission there is kind of to plant churches. So I guess it would just kind of serve the local communities there. Kind of, you said in Kisumu is where the base was. How far is there a kind of spreading of churches? How many churches are there from that one compound that kind of go out?
There's 9 families that were there when we were there.
In Kisumu.
In Kisumu. And so each family had a designated job for each church. So there was 9 different churches at its peak. It may be more or less now, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But, so like we had our own church. The guy beside us had their own church. So that we would all disperse out to our own churches. Mm-hmm. And then the only time we would have like a service in the compound was like Wednesday nights, prayer meeting or whatever.
Right. If I have it right, when we were there, now this could have fluctuated, but I do believe there were 17 churches at its peak in our region in Kisumu, and then there was another compound with another 3 to 5 families called Nakuru, and it was another compound, but it was with AMA in Nakuru there.
17 churches, but not all missionary. Like a lot of them were indigenous.
Indigenous churches, yes.
And that was the goal of the mission, was to come in, plant a church, start a church, and then be there and help get it going and keep it going. But then the view or the vision for them was to then step back and let the church be indigenous and
self-sustained.
or self-sustaining, and that's how a lot of them are or were. But yeah, I'd say the furthest one from Kisumu was like an hour and a half from there.
Yeah.
How far was the one you all would go to?
The one we would go to every Sunday was an hour one way. So we had a lot of
It was
driving
like hour
time.
and 20.
Maybe it was closer to an hour and 20.
That was on a rainy day.
But like they said, then there was another compound, which that compound had a lot of CAM staff, CAM.
Yeah.
And then there were also some of the AMA mission folks there as well. They kind of shared the same compound. They had their churches there. And then they were about halfway from where we were at to Nairobi. Nairobi is the capital of Kenya, the capital city. And so from us to Nairobi was about 6 hours, and Nakuru was right in the 3-hour point there. So they were about halfway from us to Nairobi.
Yes. And while we were in Kenya, I did get the opportunity to work with Corey Beachy with Cam at the time, and every 2 weeks he would come to Kasumu from Nakuru, and we would do orphan food drops, widow food drops. It was a humanitarian aid, and I really enjoyed that I got the opportunity to work with Cam while I was in Kenya there with AMA. So it helped keep me busy, and yeah, a lot of fun.
So, kind of, what was the house construction like over there? Over here in America, we a lot of times use like 2x4 framing or 2x6 framing, slap metal or bricks or something like that on the outside, and insulation, drywall on the inside. Kind of, how did they do their houses over there?
So their houses, a lot of the people would live in mud huts. You would have a stick frame house built. Now, when I say stick, I mean like round sticks, but strong sticks,
Not square ones,
like branches, well, if you here in America, if you say stick house, you're referring to
Like
a 2x4.
2x4.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
But it was like branches type deal where it was they
Like
built
actually
limbs.
branches out of the woods.
Yes,
They
yeah,
just cut a tree down and
limbs out of the woods. They build the frame. Then they would take mud and they would have the whole house. You would have purlins, kind of sticks going horizontal around the whole house, creating squares. So they would throw their mud inside.
I made a
Do
video
y'all
on that.
have pictures of that as well?
Probably
I made
somewhere.
I made a YouTube video on that, building a mud hut in Africa, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then they would let that harden, and then they would mix cow dung and mud or sand or something together, and they would then smear the house where it would look smooth, and then that would harden like a concrete. So, and then of course you had your thatch roof, but then in the main town, in the main big cities, you'd have your houses made out of block and concrete.
We
and stuff
didn't.
like
we
that.
didn't live in what we called a mud hut.
Yeah.
We didn't live in that kind of house. Our houses in town.
So you would have been, your compound would have been in town.
The
Yeah.
compound would have been in town, and we would have lived in a house where the construction was concrete block. So it would have been concrete block house with they would smooth it over, like the inside and the outside, they would smooth it. Well, no, the outside was just painted, and then the inside had a smooth coating over it,
Yeah.
and then painted
Like
as
a
well.
like a plaster, yeah.
But what you want to remember is that these houses were not insulated. Most, like the roofs on our houses were tiled.
you don't need insulation in Africa.
Right.
Right.
So, but my point is that the houses weren't tight. So you always had ants and things like that were very easily
Dust
come
from
in.
the roads.
And dust. And during the dry season, it got very, very dusty. So you'd always have the wind blow dust into the
No
house.
windows.
And there were no sealable windows. The windows were all open. They had screens welded on them with a metal grate on the outside to keep thieves out. But then on the inside there were glass slats, and you could adjust those glass slats up and down. But you could never seal the windows. They were always kind of open.
There's always mosquitoes. We had mosquito nets over our beds, stuff like that, because if a mosquito bites someone with malaria, and then he comes over and bites you, that stinger is just like a needle. It just was in his blood. Now when he stings you, you can get malaria like that. But anyway, so you got to be careful. You got to take your shots. You got to take your immune system stuff to keep your body right.
We did take our yellow fever shots, I think.
Was there like a metal roof, or what kind of roof was on y'all's building?
Cobblestone.
So the roof
Tile.
would have been a
Tile.
tile roof. Yeah.
Cobblestone.
And the funny thing is their trusses were rough hewn wood, and then they would put I would call it like a thin slat, almost like what's on top of a pallet, like a wood slat, and then the tiles were 16 inches long and maybe 12 inches
Just
wide.
your standard tile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standard tiles, and then of course those would lap, and that's how the roofs were tiled.
So they'd kind of overlap them. So
Overlap them, and then they weren't fastened; they were just set. Tile's pretty heavy, so you just start at the top or bottom or whatever, and overlap them, and you just place them. You don't fasten them, so they're not fastened at all.
So, kind of what was the weather like over there? You mentioned there's kind of a rainy season, so they would have had more rainy season, dry season stuff, or?
Yeah, it was like, if you look at an average chart, it was like 73 to 75 year round. So basically what that means, obviously, in your hot season, you're going to have upper 80s, but in the rainy season, you're going to have low 70s, maybe upper 60s. So it was really nice weather. And specifically there in Kisumu, it was cooler.
Yeah, it sure was. Now, one thing that I don't think we've covered though is what each of our roles were. Now, we heard Steve was a diesel mechanic, but I don't think.
I had said I was gathering eggs.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I think we're getting there.
You also did the water too. Like you had to.
Yeah.
We
had to filter all of our water through like I think it was like 8 filters.
Yeah.
Because that water had so much chlorine in it.
Yeah.
Ultra filtered, huh?
That it could literally discolor your teeth.
Yes.
There was some missionaries there that were there for like 10 or 12 years plus, and their teeth were discolored from the water. They claim it was the water, and just the different bacterias and stuff.
So just wanting to insert in here, if I may, real quick. So talking about the seasons, Kenya has 2 dry seasons, one from June to October, and the other one from January to March is when the dry seasons happen, and that's when it doesn't rain for a while, things get dusty, the weather gets really hot, up in the 90s, high humidity, and then they have a rainy season, and the rainy seasons happen, there's also 2 of those. The first one happens from March to May, and the other happens from November to December, and these periods are less ideal for the wildlife because then with all that rain the rivers get high, and then that is when a lot of people, I believe in the fall, in September and October, is when a lot of tourists come to the Masai Mara. Some people call it the Masai Mara. And the wildebeest migration is a very, very hot topic over there for the tourists. That's what a lot of people come over there to see is the wildebeest.
Lots of money.
There's also, across the border from Kenya, in Tanzania, whatever you want to call it, they have the Serengeti National Park. They would also have Kruger National Park further down in South Africa. But then, of course, you can go see the rhinos. We got one right up here.
We didn't go to see those.
They only have 2 of these left.
So this is actually a rock. It's called soapstone, so it's a softer rock. And this one I got at a local flea market. There's a local man that actually made that. He chiseled it out.
Yeah, they'll chisel it out
with a chisel, and they hand chisel all these artifacts. They don't make them with a machine. This was all made by hand. He spent a lot of time. And I bought that for, I want to say I paid like $45 for that.
Like US, which over there would probably be a lot more.
Be quite a bit of money.
Yes, yes.
And we'll get into wildlife a little bit more. Just kind of want to wrap up what the weather was like. It seems like there's 2 dry seasons, 2 rainy seasons. Dry seasons, it might hit like 90s. Be pretty humid and hot, sticky, and then kind of your lows seem to be maybe around 65 or so ish.
70, leaning towards 70. Yeah.
Leaning towards 70, and that would be in the rainy season. So there's not quite as much fluctuation like here in Brown County. In the winter, we sometimes see single digits. Rarely, every few winters, we'll see maybe below 0 every now and then. And then in the summer we'll also hit 90 a few days.
Which is a different kind of heat.
So there's like a massive difference of heat, but there it would have stayed closer to the same temperature year round.
Right, it wouldn't have fluctuated as much. And while we were there, we had the opportunity to go on vacations as well. And you had to, or you'd get burned out. So that was something you'd wanted to keep close tabs on. So we were able to go to Mount Kenya and Mount Kilimanjaro while we were there. Now, if you, I think Mount Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, and they have snow.
Freestanding. And snow in Africa.
They have snow in Africa on the top of the peak. if you go way at the top, there's some people that even hike those mountains, and you're in Africa and you're at the peak and there's snow and it's cold like it would be back here. So they do have snow in Kenya.
Yeah, the only place they got snow in Africa. But
Right.
They said they even sometimes brought little coolers and took some down just for the people to feel some of the snow.
Yeah, that was Corey's first experience with snow. He'd just seen it on TV, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, kind of the heat, like, if you get to 90 degrees here, which it doesn't very often, there's maybe a few days in the summer when it hits 90 degrees, but when it does, a lot of times there's like a massive amount of humidity and it just like sticks to you. It's like really sticky heat. Like, what was the heat like over there? Was it similar, like a sticky heat, or was it more like a dry heat, would you say?
I would say it was more of a dry heat. Now, I think I said something different earlier, but the heat here is way different than Kenya. Like, it seems like you almost can't breathe here. In Kenya, yeah, it gets hot, you sweat, but your sweat, it just vaporizes. So it's kind of dangerous because you don't really know how much you're sweating, because it vaporizes, and then also you can dehydrate without knowing because you're just sweating it all out into the air, literally.
Right.
So over there, like, it's 90 degrees, and you go into shade, and you probably actually feel that it's cooler in the shade.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
like 10 degrees. Over here, when you get 90 degrees and you go into shade, it doesn't change much. Like the heat just kind of sticks to you. I mean, it does a little bit, but it's not much of a difference.
Like 10, 15 degrees, I'd say.
You're right, because here the shade doesn't mean as much. Yeah, it gives you relief from the sun, but the temperature doesn't change that much. Well, in Kenya, you can always guarantee in the shade it'll be 10 degrees cooler. Always.
So your houses would probably still be somewhat cooler.
Yeah, the concrete. Yeah.
Well, what we did was, you had to be smart about it. In the morning, you would open up all the windows and the shade or the curtains, and let that cool air come in there. Then around 9:30, 10 o'clock, when it started heating up, you close the windows, close the shade, or close the curtains, and that would kind of keep your cool air.
Close the shade.
Well, yeah.
Keep your cool air in the house, and that would last until it would get cool in the evening again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You couldn't completely seal your windows, but you'd seal them as much as you could, basically.
But your slats would, kind of like, I don't know, those slats you have sometimes on your on some of the older houses. Yeah. It's kind of the same thing except it was glass. It would close, but it's still some air coming.
Like wind, it's not
wind resistant. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I think, is that pretty much covering all of what you want to say about the mission aspect of it, and then we'll go into maybe your vacations and your the wildlife stuff there, but just kind of wrap up as what you were doing there with missions is
mission.
What was your job, Stan? Did you ever say?
I don't think so. My job was, I was a handyman. I would do, whatever. One day I was hanging gutters on a house, and then the next day I was making eggs. And basically what we did is...
Wooden eggs, to be exact.
Wooden eggs.
There was this thing going on. It was like, you don't make chicken eggs, and he's the one gathering them. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's laying the eggs.
I know he cackles a lot, but I didn't. Yeah, I wanted to specify.
Yeah, so
you would carve them, or?
Yeah, so what was happening...
Just wood eggs.
Right, what was happening is, I think we had chickens eating eggs and maybe snakes or something getting them. So what we did is, I think I made 3 wooden eggs. Well, I cut them out. Then I had to it took an enormous amount of time.
3 days.
Yeah, about 3 days I spent on. I had to get them. I had to get them oval shaped.
You don't tell them everything, remember?
And I took a sander to them. To them, and yeah, it was an experience. It was an experience, but I did that. I would do pressure washing. I would pressure wash the houses. We had a weld shop, and we also had a wood shop, kind of together. And I would do a little bit of welding. I would do some construction. When we got there in 2016, the first thing we did was we helped build a church, and that was all steel frame. And so that was a lot of fun. And then I also worked for the women part-time. They wanted some shelves made, like right in a corner. Like they wanted a shelf that would fit into the corner with round edges. And so I would do that. I would, make those shelves for them and get
do
them
it all guy.
Yeah, do it all guy. That was my...
If there was no job description for it, they threw it at you, huh?
Right, yeah. I would also do painting as well. And so I usually kept busy. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the main thing was to keep busy. Because if you didn't, you tended to get in trouble.
That was my biggest, I would say that was my biggest, my toughest thing to do was to stay busy. Over there, the culture is different, the dynamic's different, and it was just easy to, if you weren't careful, to just kind of run out of work to do. Now, if you looked, there was always seemed like work to do around there. Some people are very handyman type of people, where they know how to concrete, they know how to drive truck, they know how to weld, they know how to install a bathroom fan, they know how to do plumbing. It just seems they can do everything. For me, it was a little bit more difficult it was more of a learning curve for me to learn all that stuff and to stay busy with that, but it worked out.
You gotta be careful or you could just get laxed, because, like you said, it was, Dad was in church planning, so he was all the time studying for messages or helping people, taking care of
The
maize
sick.
or, the sick. But, we, other than the compound, you got a lot of teenage boys, because back then, shoot, I think we had almost, I'd like to say 5 or 6 teen boys in the compound with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's only so many toilets and so many shelves you can put in before the work runs out. But, hey, over there you'd sometimes make some work to do.
Yeah,
so
for sure. But yeah.
Okay, so you all think that's kind of a good rounding on the mission part of it?
I think so.
Is someone keeping track how long we've been going?
Yeah.
Hold to catch it. We're at 45 minutes already.
Time flies.
I didn't figure we'd go that long. Are y'all good with going another maybe 45 minutes or so? Or do you need to be somewhere?
No, it doesn't.
Fine with me.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a break, and then after the break we'll come back and we'll talk maybe a little bit about wildlife and what they did on vacation, and then if we have time we'll hit up some of their jobs they're doing now. Alrighty folks, welcome back from the break. And we're going to continue on with this episode. We're going to try to wrap it up here in the next 15-20 minutes or so. I guess continuing on, we'll talk a little bit about what kind of wildlife is over in Kenya, Africa.
Do you want to do that, or shall I?
Potato. Go ahead, Steve.
So basically, there's a lot of cool animals over in Africa, obviously, and we were able to go and see the Big Five, and the Big Five would consist of, might have to help me out here.
The lion, the giraffe, the water buffalo,
The lion, the water buffalo,
the cheetah,
Cape buffalo.
The leopard.
the leopard.
The leopard.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and then the leopard.
No, you said that.
Well, then
It's a leopard.
elephant.
yes,
Elephant,
elephant.
yes.
Yeah.
So what do
My
we have?
cousin.
We have the lion, the
leopard,
elephant, the leopard, the rhino, and the
buffalo, I think.
the water
Yeah.
buffalo.
Either the water or the
Cape
buffalo.
Cape buffalo.
One of those,
I don't
yeah.
think the giraffe is one of the big
mean,
five.
no.
But I mean, obviously, if you were hunting
Hey
giraffes,
Siri,
It's tall.
what's the Big Five?
To do that, you'll need to be online.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey, man, don't do me like that.
but yeah, so that's kind of the big five. That's what a lot of people come to see. And in Kenya, you can go down south to the Masai Mara, and they've got a camp down there that's called Fairmont, and the tents are actually from Dubai, and they're pretty fancy. But it's pretty crazy because you're right next to a stream. You'll wake up to hear the hippos in the stream, and you can even hear the monkeys running over your tent. In the morning, we'd wake up and you could hear them. You could hear them go across.
So they got
Those
wild monkeys over there.
Wild
No.
monkeys, they've got baboons.
I don't know if they have any pet monkeys.
But what most people come to see, like I said, is a big five. But the other thing is the wildebeest migration. That's a big thing. That's what people come to see. People spend millions of dollars to see that type of thing.
And hunt some.
And it says here that the wildebeest migration in Kenya is a key part of the Great Migration. It's a spectacle where over 1 million wildebeest, along with zebras and other herbivores, move across the Serengeti and the Masai Mara ecosystems. This is a continuous loop migration driven by the seasons and weather, and it's a highlight of wildlife viewing in Africa. So that's kind of the short version of it. And for you guys that are interested in seeing it, the migration is a year-round event. But the best time to witness it in Kenya at the Masai Mara is typically from July to October. So right in the fall months, September, October would be peak migration for the wildebeest. And like I said, we stayed at a camp called Fairmont. They've got a big lodge there. They offer 5-star hotels, food. And then, of course, during the morning and evening, you can take what they call a safari, where they take you on these cool-looking vehicles. And they take you around and show
Rovers.
you the rovers,
Land
the rovers, and they'll show you the migration and the animals, and it's a lot of fun.
No, Joseph Hostetler would be the main guy to have on here because he would know everything about Mount
He's
Kenya.
basically a walking dictionary.
Yeah, for
he
sure.
Everything.
Good old Joseph.
You can ask him what size tires are on a certain vehicle, and he'll tell you down to the
Millisecond or whatever.
Millimeter.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Anyway, yeah, I'm talking about the animals and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Now, as far as where we lived there in Kisumu, obviously we were in town, so we're not going to see an elephant grazing by and grabbing a nanner off the tree beside you. But the only animals we kind of had there occasionally were obviously birds and stuff. But the only animal that we've seen occasionally was monkeys. They would sometimes loop through the trees and stuff like that, and we'd see monkeys there in town.
We'd see monkeys,
But
we'd see
most of the wildlife
mongooses.
was outside. Oh yeah, and they had the black mambas. We killed 3 of those.
Black mamba, mongooses,
That's a snake,
or
isn't it?
mongoose.
Very very deadly snake. They can take you out in one bite. Like
Which
black-
the mongoose would usually be able to kill something like that.
Yeah.
Because they were actually, a mongoose, if you study it, is a poisonous snake like that. It's their worst enemy. They can easily kill them. And the mongoose is
really quick.
really fast and agile, and they're somewhat immune to the snake's poison. So even if they do get bit, there's a good chance they're still going to make it.
Yeah, hey, that's a strong mongoose.
See, I wouldn't have known that, but yeah, that's good.
They're kind of in the otter, maybe otter family, or maybe the
Weasel.
The electric eel.
no, that's
We-
fish.
Wait, what?
Weasel, maybe,
Electric
maybe,
eels
like,
underwater,
maybe
though.
like a weasel. In that kind of family is how they kind of look.
Yeah.
No, the
You
electric
have any
eel-
pictures of that?
We can find some. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll kind of a lot of these things. If you could send me pictures, and then I'll
Yeah.
throw them on the screen
Exactly.
for the video podcast.
We'll do.
So they have more of like. Do they have any deer or stuff like? Probably not really any deer or turkeys like we have in America.
Would be more like gazelles and
Gazelles
impala.
and impala would be
They're
the
just
closest thing.
yeah,
to
they're
deer.
just smaller. Which the impalas, I guess, would be a little bit bigger with the curly fry horns. Is what I usually
They ain't Arby's.
Not
I
sponsored.
I think in food terms, but that's kind of That's kind of how that's kind of their deer. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then, just real quick, what was kind of your vacations? You said you had time off every now and then. What would y'all do in that time?
So for downtime, it was a very important time because it's a time you took to relax, recharge, get be close with God, and those are really good times. The mission actually had set times where they would go to a place we called Rondo, which was in the Kakamega Forest, and that was in Busia over there. in Busia.
Yeah, in that area.
And that was pretty cool because it was kind of a rainforest there. Like I said, in the Kakamega Forest, they had a lot of gardens and
It's tropical.
and you could just go. There were cabins. You could relax, look at the wildlife, take walks, and
Kind of a step outside of the Kenyan rat race, and it's not really a rat race in a bad way. It's just in
The busy
Kenya.
life.
In Kenya, they have a ton of people, and I mean a ton of people. So if you're a white man, there's always going to be a pair of eyes on you somewhere. Shoot, we even seen people looking over our fence there at the compound. So like they'll be looking at you 24/7. So at a retreat like that,
So
you
it's kind of a way
to
to get away from people.
Yep.
And there's another place up in the Nandi Hills called
Jennifer's
Jennifer's Gardens. And Jennifer's Gardens was a very nice place. They actually had one of the former presidents, one of his daughters would fly in with her helicopter every now and then to just chill and relax. And
It was like a whole garden deal. Like it was almost to the point to where it was unreal. But they had people.
it was calendar picture style.
Right. They had the grass was kept and everything was trimmed and everything.
The grass,
it was
was
crazy.
trimmed all the way down to little waterways and.
Waterways and flowers and.
I mean, I know it sounds kind of funny, but it's honestly, if you picture almost heaven, like literally,
Garden
it's
of Eden,
like just
yeah.
gardens and flowers everywhere, trees, monkeys swinging.
You bet. You gotta have it. Yeah.
Monkey
Yeah.
swinging, dude.
Okay. So is that kind of all vacation? You want to say more about vacation, or?
Yeah,
Yep.
the vacation.
Mount Kenya. You had Mount
could go to different
Kilimanjaro.
places.
The Masai Mara was a very popular one where everybody would almost go to every time.
Fairmont.
Fairmont Mara, yeah.
So basically, your vacation would consist of 3 or 4 days at the most. There's some people that took more. You were designated exact vacation days. So you'd have maybe 2 weeks out of a year that you could, 2 or 3 weeks out of a year you could vacation. So you'd have to, there at the mission, you took out of those vacation days as you took off. Because, it was, every Sunday we took off, someone else had to fill in at our church. So we had it was a lot of fun, but that's kind of how the schedule looked for a missionary trying to go on vacation.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And yeah, there were different places you could go, and yeah.
And that was it a lot of times just kind of just your family would go off, or would you go as a group as different families go together, or?
Occasionally.
Well, occasionally the mission had everybody go as a group, but most times they allowed you 2 weeks of vacation per year, so every family could take off on a vacation whenever they wanted to, or whenever they You could you had to be careful with your vacation days.
Which they were, they were to the point where it's one of those things that's always been like that from years past. So, if something happened to where it was like, 1 or 2 days, that they were lenient, with you, but just as long as everything was made aware of and run through. They usually approved everything through pastor's table and stuff. So as long as everybody was aware and everybody was on the schedule properly, then it was fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that is kind of a wrap on Kenya. I mean, I'm sure you have a boatload of more stories, but we don't have time to go into that now. Just real quick before we come back to America, I guess, is there anything you want to say to wrap that up?
No,
I think that wraps it about.
That's good.
Okay, good deal. So now we'll go into a little bit more, kind of, maybe you all can talk about Cricket Valley, kind of what that is.
Just storage sheds. We like to try to provide somewhere where they can obviously kind of incorporate it with stands, rent to own, country classic rentals as well. Is to basically provide a shed for someone that doesn't want to pay rent at a storage facility and not own it. We kind of design it to where they can pay the same monthly, have the same space, but at the end of the term you own the shed.
Right.
That's kind of down Stan's alley. But no, I do sales, designing, and a little bit of management here and there. But I usually tell people I'm just assistant janitor. I'm a professional sawdust picker upper. But no, we keep it low key there. But yeah, that's kind of what.
Do you have a website for that?
CricketValleyStructures.com. We're located in Georgetown, Ohio. But yeah,
Yep. And how many workers would you have there currently?
between 5 and 8.
Okay. And then you have a co-manager as well, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
And does your dad own that company, or
He does. Yep.
So, and then you would be with the rental, you said?
Yeah, the rent-to-own company is Country Classic Rentals, and I do the financing for Cricket Valley. You know, monthly payment, that type deal. Wayne did a good job on covering that. Now, one thing I will say is we've kind of transitioned from just managing our rent-to-own company into managing other people's rent-to-own company. So if you have a rent-to-own, or if you have a barn, and it's kind of primarily focused towards sheds. If you have a shed company and you don't have a rent-to-own company, but you'd like to have one, we have the people, we can help you get your own company started. We can help you get set up. You know, even if we don't manage it, we can definitely help someone who's looking at you're wanting the benefits of owning your own company. And even if you would like to have someone manage it, you want to own your own rent-to-own company, have those benefits, but you don't want to manage it, that's where we would come in. We would also manage that.
They're more or less a management company where they
Yeah.
take care of the customers that they don't want to deal with.
So do you
Right.
own the rental? Or?
So my dad owns that as of now. I do want to in the future to buy into that if that'll let me. But yeah, I currently manage a total of 3 rent-to-own companies right now, and it's smaller companies. It's not like we've got thousands of contracts, you know. But each company is a small business, and I kind of take care of the day-to-day customer
So you'd
service.
be kind of the head manager on the rental, but you don't
yeah.
own it
Right.
as of
Yeah,
yet.
yes, I would be a general manager. We did just in recent days we did add another office, and my mom is going to help with that. You know, answer the phones, make sure that if I want to take a weekend off or if I want to take time off, that I can do that, and that there's someone there to answer the phones.
Good deal. And then what about you, Steve? Do you still do anything with the rental company or with Cricket, or have you kind of left that?
Yeah, so I've kind of left Cricket Valley, left back in September of last year, just because I was kind of ready for something else, and I enjoyed the job. It was just up the road from the house, and I had it pretty easy there, but was ready for something else. I like trucks. I like trucking, and Wayne said he's the professional sawdust picker-upper. Well, I'm the professional pothole cleaner outer. So
Pothole.
So when I'm driving, so that's what I enjoy. I enjoy trucking. Like I told you guys earlier, I drive for a company called Runway Incorporated, and I drive a Mack truck, driving the dumpster containers, anywhere from 20 yard to 40 yard. Pick them up, take them down to the landfill in Maysville, dump it, bring them back. And yeah, I really enjoy that. And I don't know when you're going to be posting this, but I just actually quit for them yesterday, and I am planning on starting at CMT on Monday as a driver.
Truck driver?
As a truck driver for CMT. And I think maybe most of the people know what CMT is.
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
you could throw up a link. Or
they'd be right behind where I work there at Dutch Builders. And you also just kind of generally drove whatever truck you needed you to drive, right? It was just, most of it would have been dumpsters, but I think sometime I seen once you were hauling gravel or something.
Yeah, I was hauling dumpsters most of the time. The other time when I wasn't busy doing that, they had me in a dump truck hauling gravel the other day. I actually helped a little bit on the asphalt crew hauling asphalt. There I was driving a Kenworth W900 18 speed, and it had a C15 cat engine in it. And that is...
That'll get you going.
That truck there was a pleasure to drive, and it was insane. And so my dream is to eventually be able to buy a Kenworth or a Peterbilt with a cat in it and have it to haul dumpsters. I'd like to start my own company doing that. So that'd be my dream.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, so plan for this is to be released on, let me see if I can pull up my calendar. It'd be the 10th, so it'd be a week from now.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Nice.
And so now we'll go into Miller's Coffee Company. And I think, Stan, you would probably know most about that, so you can kind of tell us more about that.
Yeah, so as I appreciate big props to you guys if you've hung in all the way until now.
Right.
But yeah, so kind of like we've covered before, the coffee company, that dream was born in Kenya. And we were able, while we were in Kenya, to go visit some co-ops, go see the farmers in the fields. In Kenya, they actually had coffee farms. You could see the red berries, the coffee bushes. And there was a local coffee mill in Killian where we would go and buy our coffee directly from the mill. It was pretty insane. We got fresh coffee there every month. But yeah, that's where the dream was born. And so yeah, after we got back from Kenya, Dad decided to start Miller's Coffee Company. And for you guys who are interested, it's millerscoffeecompany.com. And we do have an online website. Just hit that link. And we do ship anywhere in the United States, so that will not be a problem. The coffees that we do offer currently are Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, Brazilian, Colombian Decaf, your regular Colombian, which is our best seller by the way, and Kenyan Double A, which is also, it would be ranked the second right now. But Kenyan Double A is a very good coffee bean. Our Kenya people love it. And then also we do offer Nicaraguan organic. And everything is medium roasted across the board. We do offer K-cup pods as well. You might find that interesting. It's not your regular pod. It's not a plastic pod. We've went organic with that. The pod has a filter to where it tastes like a pour over, and your water isn't running through plastic. So that we do have those available in Colombian and Nicaraguan organic as well. So you guys might want to check that out.
So what makes your Colombian Supreme the best? Yeah, I think you know the answer, but just for the people out there that don't.
Yeah, so the reason the Colombian is our best seller is because the tasting notes on that is caramel, milk chocolate, and cherry. And who doesn't like those flavors, right? So the body on the Colombian is anywhere from low to high. You've got and the body means you've got a good taste to it. Your sweetness is usually average to above average, and it's very low acidic. And
now, what does low acidic mean? Because I didn't know. You explained it to me.
Now the acidity is something very important in a bean, in coffee. Because when you drink coffee, a lot of people get upset stomach. You can feel it hurting your stomach. But the coffee, this Colombian coffee that's low acidic, you can drink it. People who have issues with drinking coffee say, I can't drink any other coffee except your Colombian because of it tastes smooth.
Yeah, it's very smooth.
It's very smooth, and it doesn't have a bad taste. And I tell you, I wasn't a coffee drinker until I started on the Kenyan Double A and the Colombian.
I didn't think it was that, I just thought, hey, well, it's just coffee. And I started doing the K-Cups. And then I was like, one morning we're like, oh shoot, man, we're out. So I tried some Maxwell, and man, that is really high acidic. It was bad.
It's sour. I can't
It's so sour and bitter.
Yeah. But some people like their coffee that way.
Yeah.
Some like it more on the higher acidic side.
Some people
that's
do.
where probably your Kenyan Double A would come in on the higher acidic.
Yeah, because it is stronger and higher acidic. People that like strong coffee, Kenyan Double A is definitely a good fit. But yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what we had with the coffee there. And most of you might already know, Dad started the company, and then he decided to sell it. So Stan and I are now co-owners and CEOs of that company, and we're trying to make it go. So we definitely appreciate your support. We've got a Facebook page where we post every month of where we're going to be at with our trailer. We have a coffee trailer. We go to different events. So if you guys want to sub to that would be great. We've also got an Instagram as well. Yeah, follow us on those websites, and you are also able to buy coffee from off our website where we have it available. So if you guys are interested in that, check it out.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. It looks like on your website there, I'll throw that up on the screen and also have a link in the description. But it looks like you have all your different roasts and everything, and also you got some merch, something like this.
Yeah.
Your traveler mug and some t-shirts that you sell. I seen you have a coffee cup over there. Do you have any of those to sell? Or I don't see them right now.
Not yet, not currently. We're doing a few to kind of try them out and see what we like. We're figuring that out yet. But we've had the coffee company for quite a few years, and the coffee cup is just something that we haven't gotten to yet. I don't know why, but yeah, we're going to get there.
Good deal.
But maybe guys, if you like Stan said, we're coming out with a cup there. So if you guys just something for you guys to know, maybe we've been thinking about maybe the first couple orders here soon, maybe throwing a cup in for whoever orders some coffee. So keep it in mind for sure.
Yeah.
And you also got some pictures and stuff of the stuff you do on your website, so go check that out.
Our story is on there as well on the website.
Just About Us page, and that's where you can purchase it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's kind of a wrap on that. Unless the only thing I would think of is if your rental company, I'm not sure, that probably doesn't really have a website. It's just kind of a back face for Cricket Valley or whatever.
Yeah, we have a website for that, but it's primarily for sheds, and we get our business through the sheds, the shed companies. So
The website's designed more or less for the customer that already is existing.
Right.
You go in through a portal or
Right.
etc.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
Nope, I think that should be about it, and I do want to take the opportunity to thank you for having us on here. It's been very exciting, and you got it set up nice in here, and yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to say basically the same thing. Appreciate Elson here for having us on and listen to all of our gibber and jabber and some minor editing that needed to be done. But no, yeah, it was great, and let's get this guy's views up, man.
Yes,
I think
sir,
we can do some numbers.
Appreciate it, you having us on, Elson.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and I think that's a wrap on this podcast. I'm trying to remember how I always do my ending, but basically, this podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. The video version is on Spotify, and then there's an unlisted version on YouTube. The way to get to that is my website, which is EJMast.weebly.com, EJMast.weebly.com, and I got some, my podcasts are on there. I also have a tech podcast that's on there as well, and I did some few video editing projects for fun, so that's on there. So go check that one out. And then as far as for scheduling for the podcast, as you've probably noticed, second week of every month is the release date for the EJMast Plus podcast. And then if you're lucky, on the fourth week you'll get a tech podcast, but I've hit it twice and missed it once, so I'm not sure if I'll miss it this time or hit it this time, but you can look for the fourth for the tech podcast. And with that, I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening, and thanks again for y'all for coming on. And we'll see you in the next one.
Peace,
You guys.
Let me see, what else do you normally say?
Avocados.
See, the
Sounds
website.
professional to me.
I wrote the website. I'm missing something.
Intro or outro?
Talk at you later.
Yeah, I gotta do that, but I was thinking there was something about the website. Oh yeah, scheduling.
Another thing, I'm not sure you got the right website for
I'm not gonna worry about that. They can maybe look it up and see if they can find it.
Yeah, no, I
Itchy
wouldn't.
Amish man.
I wouldn't.
Amish Mennonite Aid
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much there. anyway.
AMA.
This is a cheap looking
Did-
website.
did
Yeah, it is. It looks like you might get a virus.
It looks like someone in kindergarten built it, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't think that's the right one. If it is, that's just,
Like the font down here at the
it
bottom
says
is like.
secure.
Yeah, I know.
Donate here now.
HE.
What about the next one down?
What about that? Yeah.
Try that one. That.
That's
Oh,
the
okay.
staple up top.
Go up.
So AmishMennonite8.org. Did I start recording on that thing, Wayne?
Oh, which one of them?
Both of them.
Stand, Wayne, check him.
Stand them up, check them.
Yeah, it's working.
You can see a little spiky.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Alrighty, you ready to go back in?
Yes, sir.
Ready.
We're like, stop right now.
Cut.